Hey, everybody. Thank you again for coming to the Virtual Business Connection Summit. We're doing a great interview today with Ashley Owens, and she's from Networking Concierge. And we're going to be talking all about networking, what it takes to do it, why it's good for lead generating and building relationships. So, Ashley, tell us who you are, what you do, and a brief little intro into networking.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me, Bill. My name's Ashley Owens. I'm a networking concierge. And a little bit of what I do is I do a bunch of things. So I'm not only a coach, but I work with a company called FlowChat as the director of customer success. I'm an adjunct instructor at Temple University. And so everything has to do with the power of networking. So if we're talking a little bit about networking, why it's so important, I think anybody that's listening to this knows why it's important. I think that the benefit of networking is allowing you to grow your group of champions to become your army. I think there's a stigma against networking a lot because people think it's a very transactional kind of thing. My job, or at least the pleasure that I have in coaching my clients, is based around, all right, how do we make these action items tactical? How do you start with the first step? So I think you had mentioned a little bit about in the beginning to talk about how to get started with networking. I think the biggest challenge most people have is that they know they have to do it. Getting started isn't the issue, it's the consistency around it. So you can go to an event, you can go to a conference, you can go and go to a chamber event or anything that you find online. But I think the biggest challenge that people have is the consistency and then when to shift it over to an opportunity for, bringing on a client. But networking is gets a bad rap because it feels very transactional, where it's the complete opposite. You're making a friend. Half the time you're making a friend because people buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. So that's going to be the biggest hurdle I think most people kind of manage in the beginning.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So, I think the first thing that I want to dive into is that beginning. So let's start with someone who basically has never done networking before
Sure.
and they've gotten the idea from somebody.
Right.
What are things they need to think of when it comes to mindset? One of
Yeah.
the things they need to think of when it comes to finding the right networking events,
Mhm.
and just in all, just getting started with like the process of getting into it.
Sure. So it depends on where area you're coming from. So if it's coming from this is your own business and you know you have to go out there and network, or if you're internally networking inside your corporate organization, or maybe you are networking because you need to transition into another position. So these are three different kinds of areas that you typically focus on when you're building out your own brand. But that particular area is that when you get started with your own business or when you get started into networking itself, you need to understand your own branding, your own personal brand. That can be very challenging for people, and it can also be challenging for people if they don't understand who they need to meet. So when it comes down to where you want to go, first you got to figure out who you are, what you do, what makes you awesome, and then who your audience actually is. So if we're looking at events or if we're looking at places to go, any kind of association that revolves around your strengths, definitely go to. If you're a woman, there's plenty of women in business organizations out there. If you enjoy skeet shooting, there's plenty of associations out there that help handle where you can meet other like-minded individuals in an area that you enjoy. I think the challenge that most people have is they go to the first generic open networking event and they expect people to go in there and sell them on things, which 95% of the time they will, if you do not niche down where you want to go. So the first thing I would think about is start off with your current network. These are people that you've built the know, the like, and the trust factor with. Put them in a list first, then start making phone calls or connecting with them on LinkedIn and start engaging with their content, and also send them a DM to say, hey, I actually haven't spoken to you in a while. I see what you're doing is super interesting. Would you be willing to jump on a 15-minute introduction call or, informational call? 9 times out of 10, if they're in your network and they've had a good relationship with you before, they're going to reach out back out and say, yeah, absolutely. Tell me what's going on in your life. You don't have to network in person anymore. You can,
Mhm.
you're more than welcome to. In fact, I enjoy it. But let me tell you, after the pandemic, I built my network to international just because of the activity that I had online and the opportunities and the curiosity that I had with other people in different industries. So the first thing is first is to build a personal brand. The next thing is to be very curious. Be curious about the people that you want to meet and the industries that you want to get into or be involved in. And third, don't worry about selling anything. You're going and you're building, making a friend. If the people that you have in your network are the ones that will advocate for you when you're not in the room, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key point about the power of networking and building that network itself is it compounds. They could potentially be a client, but they're also going to be someone who can be an advocate, someone who can promote your business outside of it and expand who you get to, just like you would be doing if you posted a video on LinkedIn and then it got shared and then someone else shared it. It's the same concept, except you're doing it with people as opposed to video. Um, so now that we're kind of finding the right networking groups to get into, and we've figured out exactly who we want to talk to,
Mhm.
what are some things we need to do when we show up to a networking event or,
Yeah.
start to create that contact, whether it's online or at a networking event?
Oh gosh, I wish this could be more of a straight black and white answer. It's never going
Yeah.
to. This networking is such a personal activity, right? So if you feel confident wearing big hoop earrings and this great, awesome dress that fits you great, or if you have this suit and tie outfit, or if you've got, a different ritual that you do before you go out, whatever it might be, getting yourself in the mindset of that is going to be completely up to you. I know that I love throwing on a red lipstick and pair of glasses and a nice looking suit to go out and enjoy myself, but it all depends on the event that we're going to or that I'm going to. So when it comes down to how to get people started or how to just arrive at a networking event, think about the things that you need to know beforehand. You need to know what you're going to say to people, which could be, hi, what brings you here today? Have at least 3 deep, meaningful business conversation questions in the back of your head. The one that I love using is, what problems are you currently solving for your clients, or or what brings you here is my favorite opener, my favorite icebreaker. And
Mhm.
that allows me to understand who they are and why they're there, so I can navigate through the conversation to see, one, can I introduce them to somebody else in my network, or two, they could potentially be a strategic partner. So when you're thinking about strategic partners, you're thinking about the life cycle of your potential client or who you're looking to meet. So for example, real estate agent and a divorce lawyer are fantastic strategic partners, because if you're getting divorced, you're typically upsizing or downgrading. And so if you look at the life cycle of your client, what other industry professionals are they going to hit with their problem?
Mhm.
So thinking about that, then you create your 5 or 10 strategic partners, and then those are the people that you want to keep in your network because you can refer to each other. Now, along the lines of going to an event, you may find somebody that has the challenge that you fix for your clients. But the goal is you don't want to go in there and say, what, I really want to sell to you. You're going to go in there and say, oh, you know what, this is a great opportunity to chat. Can we take this offline? Can we take this? Can I schedule a call with you next week? I have Friday at 3 open.
Mhm.
Everybody's got a phone. Everyone's got a smartphone. Open up your calendar, throw it down, and that way you can also see if someone's full of it too. If they're
Mhm.
having a good conversation with you and they say, oh, you know what, I'll wait until I get back to my office, they're full of it, move on. I'd rather you have 5 meetings on the calendar that you've built that day than wait 24 hours to follow up via email and then have a 6 or 7 email chain follow up and you have no idea what you talked about with that person right away.
Yeah.
So to go into an event, you want to go with the plan in mind is to just get the meeting. And this could be for a partnership. This could be for a collaboration. This could be, I don't think we should meet, but I've got 2 people I'd love for you to meet that are definitely in your niche. So you need to know your network. You need to know who you have that you can make good introductions to that are going to give you the networking credibility and equity. So
Mhm.
half the time I go to events, if I'm there, if I go to 3 or 4 events a week, 2 out of the 3, I'm going there not only to socialize, to put my name out there, but also to see how many people I can help without doing any kind of transaction.
Mhm.
So go into that space having 0 expectations, but being there to serve.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of the hardest thing that a lot of people have. And I kind of, wow, I had trouble with that a lot too in the very beginning with, I went to one where I was just like, have you ever had video? Is what I was doing back at that time. And, I would start talking about how they could use video instead of just kind of building that relationship. And that was definitely something that I was missing in the beginning. And I've gotten a little better at that. But now that things are online, one of the things that I'm working on is how to transfer that over to when I'm online, having that same feel of I gotta either offer something or come from a place of help or something like that to kind of get that um, conversation as well.
Right.
And I think that since things are kind of becoming more online, especially because COVID changed a lot of things to being Zoom and stuff like that, it took that personable part out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one area where I kind of want to talk a little bit more about. So,
Sure.
when someone is networking online,
Yeah.
or trying to create their network online. What are some ways to get past the fact that the people don't see you necessarily in the beginning if you're just doing social media, but if you're doing Zoom, they sometimes don't feel the same like response, like same impulse to like connect. Like how have you been getting past that?
So there's two different ways. So the first things first is that you can't always assume what somebody's going to feel when they got on a Zoom call with you. You can assume, if you are going to assume, that it's going to be a fantastic experience because you're there, they're there, and you're making them feel as comfortable and as welcome as possible. That's the only thing you can do. The second piece of that is that you're going to do three things on LinkedIn to build up your network. You're going to connect, you're going to collaborate, and you're going to celebrate. So if your posts do not have one of those themes attached to it, you are not doing LinkedIn correctly. If you're starting from zero and you post something or you're commenting on a particular post that has likes on it and people are engaging in the thread of conversation, take a look at the people that are commenting as well on those highly engaged posts. Reach out to them for a 15-minute introduction call. You start pushing out content that is relevant to your industry and to your field on education. There are people that are going to like and they're going to comment and they're going to agree or they're going to disagree. If they start sending out messages to you or they start sending out connection requests to you, that's opting in to chat with you. Don't let anybody else think differently. Like that, they're opting in to connect with you in some form or fashion. And if that's the case, open the door for a conversation. Hey, thanks so much for connecting with me. This is what I do in my business. I'd love to see if I can provide an introduction or two. Can we jump on a call next week? Here's a link to my calendar. And if they say no, all right, then you move on. But then you got to follow up a couple times before you get to the next step. But I built my entire business off of doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
also doing something called the $80 method. So this is a Gary V methodology, Gary Vaynerchuk from Vader Media, and what he
Mm-hmm.
talks about is the $80 method. So that means that you're going to the top 10 posts on LinkedIn that are relevant to your top 10 hashtags you're following, top 10 hashtags that are relevant to your field. And every day you're going into different posts and you're engaging in those posts. You're either commenting, you're liking, you're putting your 2 cents on all of these
Mm-hmm.
posts. When you
Okay.
put your 2 cents on it, you're doing it 100 times a day. Now, you don't have to do it 100, just do it 20, maybe 30 times a day. But the goal is that people are going to start to see you commenting and liking, and then you're going to get people who are going to want to connect with you. When they connect with you, jump on a 15-minute call with them if they fit in your top 10 strategic partner list. That
Mm.
way, you're not just saying yes to everybody, you're engaging with intention, but you're doing that based off of the content that you're putting out and being very strategic on LinkedIn as well.
Definitely. That was a lot in like just 2 minutes. But it's fantastic.
We've done this before.
Yeah. But this is great. This is great. So that's how we would start to build that connection. And I think that this is something that's popped up in a couple of the interviews that we've done where because everything is becoming digitally, how do we keep that humanity to what we're all doing? And
Yeah.
I think this is really good to put in. So now that we're making these connections, whether it's through meeting people in person or talking to them and develop them off online, we have the connection. What do we do to nurture that connection, keep it around, and ultimately either get a sale or a referral out of it? Like, what are some best practices to keep that moving forward and growing?
Yeah, to nurture, it's basically to stay top of mind, but also to engage with intention. So if you're going to nurture a relationship, what you want to do is you want to create something called the A and the B team. The A team is the people that you know and you like, and the B team are the people that, I'm sorry, the A team is the people that you know, you like, and you trust, and the B team is the people that you know and you like. The point is that you're going to have a list of people that you enjoy speaking with, that you enjoy talking to, that really give you the good feels, and they're beneficial in your industry. You're going to throw them on an Excel file with all of their information, including their specialties. Then when you meet with somebody new off of that $80 method, jumping into their DMs and saying, I'd love to chat with you, you get on a call and say, who's a good introduction for you? And when they say, oh, you know what, I'm actually really interested in talking to people in payroll, or I'm really interested in talking to people who are in real estate, you go to that B team or you go to that A team. And now what you're doing is you're making new introductions. You do that every day or every week, every single time you get on a call. Now what you're doing is you're building out the spider web of people who've been connected because you were a part of that. So to nurture your current network with the new one allows your new network to be, oh, great, I already know everybody in your network. Let's see if we can continue to build out this new network. So that's the first way of nurturing, is to make thoughtful introductions based off of the content that you're building and the engagement that you're receiving off of that content. The second way is to stay top of mind, celebrating, right? We talked about celebrating, collaborating, connecting on LinkedIn. Anytime you have a good thing, or anytime somebody posts something that's really interesting, or they are celebrating something, celebrate them celebrating. Share their stuff, put a nice little quick quip on something on LinkedIn and say, what an awesome experience. Congratulations on this. I'm so deeply proud of you. You know, everybody check out what they're doing. That quick 2-minute little thing that you're putting out there is going to reach your network, which is then going to put more eyes on it. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me in my DM saying, hey, I saw, my buddy shared your stuff. I'd love to be on your show. Like, oh, awesome, perfect, no problem. And it just makes it so that way the people that are reaching out that see it from their network already builds out credibility. So to nurture is to celebrate, to continue, and also to follow up. If you've had a really good conversation with somebody and you want to keep that going, every month have a check-in meeting with them. Take your Fridays and check in with them. Put a task list on your message, a task on your task list, and decide to say, you know what, I'd love to check in with you. Would you be willing to? Or even better, grab the people that you're really excited about connecting with, and have everybody come into a group call. Hey, I've got 15 people. I'd love for everybody to meet. Would you guys all be willing to jump on a call and introducing ourselves? I think it could be really beneficial to everybody. Having a half hour or a happy hour on like not Friday, but like a Thursday, or even just in the middle of the day, be like, bring your coffee, bring your booze, whatever you got, have a snack, like let's hang out. I'd love to get to know everybody. That ends up building networking groups and associations. You start small, you build your own exclusive private group, and then they say, hey, why don't you guys bring somebody else you trust? Let's bring them in, we'll have a good conversation. And then you lay out an entire agenda for these groups. So there's plenty of ways to nurture, especially if you're really trying to be someone who's the go-to person. But also, I get more introductions now based off of Ashley's. First of all, I don't hate the term, but I did not bring it up. But someone's like, Ashley's the networking queen. I'm like, first of all, slow your roll. Second of all, thanks. Third of all, what can I help you with? The goal is that the point that I'm trying to make is that if you are the person that people feel comfortable bringing other people to you, you have no idea what the collaboration opportunities are. Mm-hmm. So just be the person that people feel that they can trust you with, that they'll be taken care of in that space. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. And that's really good to follow, and also the different ways that you mentioned. And then creating that reputation is obviously something in business that we should all be focusing on in general.
And it doesn't have to be peacocking it either. Your reputation can be with a small group of people that know, like, and trust you and respect you. They're going to make the introductions if you treat them well. This is not necessarily the best partners and strategic partners I've ever had have been ones where we've never traded money for anything. It's always been collaboration and introductions to other great people. So just know that doesn't necessarily have to be money driven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we now have talked about how to get into networking, how to build those relationships and get those relationships, and then also how to nurture them. Now, one thing that I do want to kind of talk on is also like, okay, so we've been nurturing these relationships. How do we because this is something that I've come into, how do we start having conversations potentially with someone who maybe we've been nurturing for a long time and we have a relationship with, but how do we take them out of the friend zone, for lack of a better example, over to the sales zone without like losing that relationship? Because some people are like, oh, we've been referring back and forth, and like maybe they do need your service, they just haven't admitted it. How do we take them over to that side in an effective way?
I think it's having an honest conversation with them, because they can't read your mind. They don't know. So half the time, half of my clients, even though I help them with their not businesses, but I help them with their networking styles, I'm always reminded by different areas that they actually specialize in every single time. My job is to get to know you. I don't give a damn what your business is. My job is to get to know you and understand how you make connections and who you're looking to meet.
Hmm.
There have been plenty of times where my favorite people in the entire world who are networking, who I network with and who have become friends, where I'm like, oh, that's right, you do that. That's right that you specialize in that, because it'll come up in conversation, or when you hear them talk about what they do and somehow it just clicks differently, it becomes way better because you've built a relationship with them. So to transition from nurturing these relationships to saying, hey, I actually feel like I can help you here, what do you think? A conversation is going to be a lot easier to do because it's more of, hey, I want to let you know that I have these services. Is this something your team is in the process of looking for?
Hmm.
And it's going to be less cold, more of an honest conversation. And if they say no, no harm, no foul, great. Do you know of anybody else that might be able to utilize these services? Oh yeah, of course, man, I'll get you over this. No problem. Now that I have an understanding of what you do, deeply, the sales conversation usually doesn't come up until, years later, then that's fine. But have an honest conversation with them. Say, I really have this new service offering. I'll love your feedback on it. Could be that first, and it kind of not manipulate, but you can kind of change the conversation into them being like, oh, actually, I might need that. And then, have those conversations and to the best of your best practice, right? So my point in my to try to educate you on this is that it comes from a level of honesty. It also comes from a level of not trying to sell them and just saying, hey, I'd really like to educate you more on like what we do. And I know that you have this in your department. Would this be something you guys might be looking for? I'd love to learn more.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I love that. I think that it's, good to remember, like when you present it, it's like you said, not sales in it. And I think that comes from a mindset kind of thing. When
Yeah.
you remember that just because you are talking to them about money or buying something from you, it doesn't mean that anything you've done before has to really change.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people, just like I guess when people go from friends to relationships, like
Mhm.
they're trying to change too much of like, I'm in a mode now, I'm in a different mode, I'm in sales mode. And I think
Yeah.
that's where that starts to come in, because then it's like, oh, you start saying things like percents off, and like it just
Yeah,
becomes
yeah. If you're
uncomfortable.
discounting your stuff for no reason, that actually just diminishes the value that you have.
Hmm. So awesome. So I think we've taken it from, you know, building our network from beginning to like, now trying to convert people. So before we kind of get into any actionable steps that people could do to kind of start this whole process, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you feel like we should touch on?
I think that the biggest challenge that people currently have in networking when they do come to me is the level between extroversion and not having a full understanding of who they are. And that's okay. It can always change, right? But your personal brand is a big, big part about how to network with intention. But
Mhm.
also, people overthink it. They overthink going into a networking event and feel like they have to come out with 5 meetings. No, that's the goal, but it doesn't mean you have to, hit on it every single time. It's a work in progress. Networking is such a personal activity. It's not a one size fits all thing. So if you get down to the nitty gritty of it, you're making a friend, and guess what? You get to pick the people you keep in your circles,
Mhm.
because your network is what is going to drive you, is going to help you from the very beginning until whatever decision you make to change jobs, or the growth path of your career. So I think the one thing I would love to really hone in onto your audience is just, please do not overthink it. Go into an environment where you feel like you can not only be seen but be heard. And sometimes if you are the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room. So go places that are uncomfortable in the beginning,
Mhm.
because not only are you going to learn, but it's going to give yourself a thirst for knowledge to then ask questions to people who are maybe more elevated than you. And now you've got this mentoree opportunity,
Mhm.
and that's networking. So like, there's so many things that you can go in through it. I think people find it to be more of a transactional thing, and it's not. It can't be. Otherwise, you're gonna stress yourself out before you can get in the room.
Yeah, I agree with that. Awesome. So, um, the next thing I want to do is kind of put this all together with some actionable steps. So, what are two actionable steps that they can take to start this whole journey that we've been talking about?
Yeah, get a CRM. the first thing. If we're talking about tactical and tangible, get a CRM. Flowchat's the one I use, and that helps me keep in touch with all of my network in the DMs and direct messaging. It gets opened up way more than any email marketing anywhere else. So you have a CRM, use Flowchat. The next is always use a calendar link if you're going to be scheduling these networking meetings, because inside that calendar link, it also gives you an opportunity to ask questions and to find out where these people came from. So whether it's your LinkedIn strategy, whether it's at an event, that way you can work smarter, not harder. So these things are going to be helpful for you to use the data to see where your network is being built the most. So you're not spending, maybe you just need to go to 4 conferences a year rather than 14 events a month. So it's a great way to look at the data to see where it's working, and always stay top of mind by educating your audience. So utilize tools to, video is going to be huge, but also educate your audience in a way that you can thrive in. If you're a writer, write blogs. If you like video, make videos. If you like audio, start podcasts. Like, get your stuff out there in a way that's intentional. And by the time you do the $80 method, you've got an entire LinkedIn connections that are all of your strategic partners. They're all in your niche market. You put all that content out, guess who's going to be engaging with it? Your market.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of different ways you can do that. But just to kind of recap, use a CRM. Again, Flowchat's my go-to. Then you want to have a calendar link, and then you want to educate your audience utilizing those tools.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I really appreciate it, Ashley.
Sure.
So thank you, everyone, for watching this interview, and we will see everyone in the networking event tonight at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom.